Good evening, my dear friends. Tonight I want to speak to you about one of the most misunderstood subjects in all of human experience: wealth. Not the accumulation of money, not the acquisition of possessions, not the manipulation of external circumstances to increase your bank balance. I want to speak to you about wealth as it truly is, a state of consciousness that you can enter right now, regardless of your current financial circumstances. Most people believe they will feel rich when they get money, but I tell you tonight that you will get money when you feel rich. This reversal of cause and effect is not wordplay. It is the fundamental principle upon which all manifestation operates. Wealth is not something you achieve. It is something you are. And you can be wealthy right now in this moment before a single external circumstance changes. The revelation that transformed my understanding of wealth came through observing a remarkable man who attended my lectures for months. He was well dressed, spoke with confidence, carried himself with natural authority, and radiated an unmistakable sense of prosperity. Other students would often ask him for business advice, assuming he was quite successful financially. One evening after a lecture, this same man approached me with a curious expression. "Neville," he said, "I must tell you something remarkable. Everyone here assumes I'm wealthy because of how I carry myself, and the truth is, I feel wealthy. Completely, genuinely wealthy. Yet my bank account tells a different story. I've been unemployed for 8 months and have very little money. But somehow I can't shake this feeling of abundance and prosperity. It feels more real than my circumstances." I looked at this man and said, "My friend, you have mastered the most important principle of wealth creation. You have learned to feel wealthy independent of external circumstances. Your consciousness of wealth is real, more real than your temporary financial condition. The external world must conform to your internal state." Within 6 weeks, this man had been offered a position that paid more than he had ever earned in his life. Within 6 months, he had become genuinely prosperous. But the most remarkable thing was this: his external transformation perfectly matched the internal state he had been maintaining all along. He had not faked wealth, he had felt wealthy, and feeling wealthy had attracted the circumstances that matched his consciousness. You see, money is not wealth. Money is merely the symbol of wealth, the external representation of an internal state. True wealth is a feeling, a consciousness of abundance, security, and freedom that exists completely independent of your bank balance. When you understand this distinction, you realize that you can be wealthy right now in this moment, regardless of how much money you currently possess. You can feel the security that money represents without having money. You can experience the freedom that wealth provides without being wealthy in financial terms. You can embody the consciousness of abundance before abundance appears in your bank account. But how do you feel rich when your circumstances seem to declare poverty? How do you embody wealth when your bills are unpaid and your account is empty? Let me tell you about a woman who discovered the answer to this question in the most practical way possible. She came to me drowning in debt, working 3 jobs to support her children, exhausted and desperate. "Neville," she said, "it's easy for you to talk about feeling wealthy, but I haven't had a full night's sleep in months because I'm worried about money. How can I feel rich when I can't even pay my rent?" I said to her, "You are trying to feel wealthy while focusing on the evidence of poverty. But consciousness cannot hold 2 opposite states simultaneously. You must learn to feel wealthy by focusing on what wealth feels like, not on what poverty looks like." I taught this woman a technique that changed her life forever. I said, "Every evening before sleep, I want you to lie in bed and feel what it would be like if all your financial worries were resolved. Don't think about how this could happen, just feel the relief, the security, the peace of mind that would come with having more than enough money." "But how do I feel something that isn't true?" she asked. "By understanding that feelings are not dependent on facts," I replied. "Right now, close your eyes and feel what it would be like to wake up tomorrow morning, knowing that all your bills were paid, that you had money in the bank, that you could provide generously for your children without struggle. Feel the lightness in your chest, the relaxation in your shoulders, the smile that would naturally come to your face." I guided her through this process step by step. Feel what it's like to check your bank account and see abundance instead of scarcity. Feel the confidence you would have in making financial decisions. Feel the generosity you could express toward others. Feel the security of knowing that money flows to you easily and consistently. She practiced this faithfully every night. At first it felt forced and unnatural because her daily reality contradicted these feelings. But gradually, something began to shift. The feelings of wealth became more natural, more automatic. She began to carry herself differently, speak differently, make decisions differently. Within 3 months, one of her part-time employers offered her a full-time position with benefits and a salary that was 3 times what she had been earning from all 3 jobs combined. Within a year, she had not only paid off all her debts, but had savings for the first time in her adult life. But the most remarkable transformation was in her relationship with money itself. She had stopped being afraid of money, stopped feeling guilty about wanting it, stopped believing that financial abundance was somehow wrong or unspiritual. She had learned to feel wealthy, and wealth had become her natural expression. This illustrates the most important truth about wealth consciousness. It's not about the amount of money you have. It's about how you feel about money and abundance. Some people with millions of dollars feel poor and insecure. Others with very little money feel abundant and free. The difference is not in their bank accounts, but in their consciousness. When you feel wealthy, you make decisions from abundance rather than scarcity. You speak about money with confidence rather than anxiety. You approach financial situations with calm certainty rather than desperate hope. And these changes in your consciousness create changes in your external circumstances. Let me share with you another story that perfectly illustrates this principle. A young entrepreneur came to me whose business was failing. He said, "Neville, I've tried everything to save my company. I've cut expenses, worked longer hours, borrowed money from family. Nothing works. I'm facing bankruptcy, and I don't know what else to do." I observed that everything he was doing came from the consciousness of financial desperation. His actions, while practical, were motivated by fear and lack. I said to him, "You are trying to create wealth from the consciousness of poverty. But poverty consciousness can only create more poverty, no matter how hard you work." I taught him to completely reverse his approach. Instead of focusing on saving his failing business, I showed him how to feel like a successful entrepreneur. Instead of worrying about bankruptcy, I guided him to experience the consciousness of financial success. Every morning before you go to your office, I instructed, spend 10 minutes feeling what it's like to run a thriving, profitable business. Feel the satisfaction of making wise financial decisions. Feel the confidence of someone whose company is growing and succeeding. Feel the peace of mind that comes with abundant cash flow. "But my business is actually failing," he protested. "How can I feel successful when the numbers say otherwise?" "Because feelings create facts, not the other way around," I replied. "Your current financial facts are the result of your past financial feelings. If you want new facts, you must generate new feelings. Feel successful now, and success will follow." This man learned to separate his feeling state from his financial circumstances. While he continued to handle practical business matters responsibly, he did so from the consciousness of wealth rather than poverty. He felt like a successful businessman even when his bank account suggested otherwise. The transformation was remarkable. Within weeks he began making business decisions with greater clarity and confidence. New opportunities appeared that he had never noticed before. Clients began responding to him differently. His entire approach to business changed because his consciousness had changed. Within 8 months his business had not only recovered but had become more profitable than ever before. He had learned the secret of feeling wealthy before becoming wealthy, and this feeling had manifested as external success. Now let me address a common concern. "Neville, if I feel wealthy when I'm not, am I lying to myself? Am I living in denial of my financial reality?" The answer is that you are not denying your current financial circumstances. You are choosing to identify with a different level of truth. Your bank balance is one level of reality, but your consciousness is a deeper level of reality that can change any external circumstance. When you feel wealthy, you are not pretending that your bills don't exist. You are claiming the wealth that exists in consciousness and allowing it to manifest in physical form. You are not ignoring your current situation. You are creating a new situation through the power of feeling. Think of it this way. A seed planted in the ground does not deny that it is currently underground in darkness. But it does not identify with the darkness. It contains within itself the consciousness of the full-grown tree it will become. Your current financial circumstances are like the darkness around the seed. Your wealth consciousness is like the tree that already exists in potential. The key to feeling wealthy is to focus on what wealth represents rather than on money itself. Wealth represents security, freedom, peace of mind, the ability to be generous, the power to make choices based on preference rather than necessity. You can feel all of these things right now, regardless of your current bank balance. Let me tell you about a man who mastered this principle so completely that his transformation seemed miraculous to everyone who knew him. He was a taxi driver in New York City, working long hours for modest pay, supporting a large family in a small apartment. By all external measures, he was not wealthy, but this man had learned something profound. Wealth is a state of consciousness, not a financial condition. Every day as he drove his taxi, he would feel what it was like to be financially free. He would imagine that he was driving not out of necessity, but out of choice. He would feel the security of having abundant money in the bank. He would experience the peace of mind that comes with financial freedom. Most importantly, he would feel grateful for the abundance that already existed in his life. He appreciated his health, his family, his ability to work, the beauty of the city he drove through each day. He felt wealthy because he focused on the wealth of experience and opportunity that surrounded him constantly. One day a passenger left a briefcase in his cab. When he returned it to the man's office, he discovered that the passenger was a successful businessman who had been looking for someone exactly like him. Honest, reliable, hardworking to manage a new venture. Within a year, this former taxi driver had become a partner in a thriving business. But the most remarkable thing was that he carried the same consciousness of abundance into his new circumstances that he had maintained while driving the taxi. Wealth had not changed his consciousness. His consciousness had attracted wealth. He had felt rich as a taxi driver, and feeling rich had made him rich. This brings us to one of the most important aspects of wealth consciousness: gratitude for what you already have. You cannot feel genuinely wealthy while focusing on what you lack. Wealth consciousness begins with appreciation for current abundance, no matter how modest it may appear. Look around your life right now and notice the wealth that already exists. You have a roof over your head, food to eat, clothes to wear, air to breathe. You have the capacity to think, to feel, to imagine, to choose. You have access to knowledge, to beauty, to human connection. When you truly appreciate what you already possess, you discover that you are already far wealthier than you realized. A woman once came to me complaining that she could never feel wealthy because she had so little money. I said to her, "Let me ask you something. How much would someone pay to have your eyesight if they were blind? How much would someone give to have your mobility if they were paralyzed? How much would someone pay to have your freedom if they were imprisoned?" She began to cry as she realized the immense wealth she had been taking for granted. "I never thought of it that way," she said. "I am wealthy. I just hadn't been appreciating my wealth." From that moment forward, she began each day by feeling grateful for the abundance that already existed in her life. This gratitude created a consciousness of wealth that attracted even greater abundance. Within months, her financial situation had improved dramatically, but more importantly, she had learned to recognize and appreciate wealth in all its forms. The practice of feeling wealthy must become a daily discipline, especially in the moments before sleep when your subconscious mind is most receptive. Lie in bed each night and feel what it would be like if all your financial desires were fulfilled. Don't focus on the how or the when. Focus only on the feeling of having abundant money. Feel the security of knowing that you always have more than enough. Feel the freedom to make choices based on what you want rather than what you can afford. Feel the joy of being able to give generously to others. Feel the peace of mind that comes with financial abundance. Most importantly, feel grateful for the wealth that you are claiming. Gratitude seals the consciousness of abundance and makes it permanent in your awareness. But remember, feeling wealthy is not about greed or materialism. True wealth consciousness includes the wisdom to use money constructively, the generosity to share abundance with others, and the understanding that money is a tool for expressing your highest values, not an end in itself. When you feel genuinely wealthy, you naturally want to contribute to the welfare of others. You understand that abundance is meant to flow, not to be hoarded. You use your wealth to create beauty, to solve problems, to make the world a better place. I want to leave you with this truth. Wealth is your natural state. Abundance is your birthright. You were born to prosper, to thrive, to have more than enough for yourself and plenty to share with others. Any feeling of lack or limitation is a temporary condition that exists only in consciousness and can be changed by changing your consciousness. Feel rich now, my friends, not because you have money, but because you are consciousness itself, and consciousness lacks nothing. Feel wealthy because abundance is the truth of your being. Feel prosperous because prosperity is your natural expression. The money will follow because money always flows toward the consciousness that feels worthy of receiving it. But more importantly, you will discover that true wealth was never about money at all. It was about recognizing the infinite abundance of being that you have always been. Feel rich now and discover that you have always been richer than you ever dared to imagine. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform, not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures. I will see you in the next video.
My dear friends, time is not real, not in the way you think. And the longer you believe that you must wait, strive, and prove yourself worthy of your desires, the longer you remain enslaved to a timeline that was never yours. You see, if you've been trying to manifest something and it's taking too long, you're not doing it wrong, you're just still playing by time. And time is the most convincing lie in this entire illusion we call life. You never have to wait for your desire. Your only job is to collapse time and move into the version of you where it already exists. But here's the problem. You are still watching the clock, you are still tracking results, and every time you do that, you shift back into the state where your desire is missing. Today, that ends because I'm going to show you how to ignore everything and how to enter the state of your wish fulfilled so completely that time bends around your assumption. Your senses lie. They always show you a delayed version of your consciousness. What you see around you is old news. It's a shadow. It's the echo of a former state. To be conscious of being rich while poor is to be poor. Not because you're faking it, but because you're feeding it. Time feels slow because you are oscillating between identities. You visit the end in your imagination, then you walk back into the hallway of doubt and call it reality. So stop asking, how long will it take? Start asking, how fully am I living in the end? Because time doesn't shift your reality, your identity does. But the real question is this: when everything in your 3D world screams, it's not here, how do you keep living like it already is? How do you hold the end so deeply that time falls into it? Let's break it down step by step. Step 1. Forget the calendar. This is where most people get stuck. They think it's going to take time. They say maybe in a few weeks or hopefully by next year. And the moment you do that, you've placed your desire outside of you. You've pushed it into the future. You've created distance. You've told your mind and your reality, this isn't mine yet. And what you separate from, you delay. Time is only real when you're disconnected from your power. Every state already exists. Not one day, not eventually. Right now. There is already a version of you who has what you want, fully, completely. You're not creating it from scratch, you're aligning with it. And alignment doesn't take time. It takes identity. That's why your imagination is not just daydreaming. It's the creative center of God in you. So when you assume something is real and you stay loyal to it, even when nothing outside supports it, you're not waiting for it to come. You're reorganizing the structure of reality around who you've decided to be. So stop tracking how long it's been. Stop saying it's been 2 months and nothing's changed. Time is not blocking you. Time is just showing you how fully or how loosely you've embodied the end. And here's the shift. Once you fully live in the end, you don't need time anymore. Time folds, time collapses, because it's not needed when you're already there. Step 2. Become the state, not the seeker. Most people are stuck trying to attract what they want. They visualize, affirm, journal, and wait for signs, all while secretly hoping the universe will give them permission to receive. They treat spiritual law like a vending machine. Insert desire, press the right buttons, and wait. But it's the opposite. You don't attract anything from the outside. You express everything from within. You don't get what you want. You become it. This is the difference between being a seeker and being a creator. And until you close that gap, nothing changes. Your world doesn't respond to your effort. It doesn't care how much you visualize, how many books you read, or how spiritual you sound. It only responds to one thing, your identity. So the real question isn't, what do I do? It's, who am I being? And this is where most people miss the mark. They treat the state of the wish fulfilled as a mood, something they visit during meditation or scripting, instead of the self they must inhabit. But the state isn't a daydream. It's not an emotional high. It's a complete and quiet shift in self-definition. The moment you truly become the version of you who already has it, you stop checking, waiting, asking. You stop trying to impress the mirror, and instead you own the reflection. And the external world by law must follow. Not because you forced it, not because you earned it, but because that's what consciousness does. Your reality is a mirror, and mirrors don't debate you. They don't delay out of spite. They simply reflect who you are, being right now. So if you're still waiting for confirmation, if you're still looking for signs, if you're still asking, is it working? You're not in the end. You're still in the identity of not having, and the mirror is just doing its job. This is not a punishment. It's not personal. It's structure. There's no negotiation in spiritual law. You're not trying to convince the universe to bless you. You're telling it who you are, moment by moment, and it reflects that identity without bias. So the question is, are you being the one who already has it, or the one still hoping for it? Because the seeker never finds. The one who is never needs to search. Stop being the seeker. Start being the version of you who no longer has anything to ask for, because it's already done, not in the future, but in your state. Step 3. Refuse to observe. Commit to embody. Your greatest enemy isn't the delay. It isn't the circumstance. It isn't even the problem you think you're facing. It's your own observation. Not what's happening, but your habit of checking if it's working. The constant need to look around and measure the progress. The voice that says, still no text, still no shift, still no sign. That's the voice that keeps the old reality alive, because every time you observe, you don't just look at the world, you reactivate the version of yourself who doesn't have it. And in doing so, you return to the very state you said you had left. This is what most people don't understand. The outer world is not here to confirm your desire. It's here to echo your state, and echoes come after the sound, not before. You think you're being realistic. You think you're just noticing what is. But what you're actually doing is worshipping the seen, instead of trusting the unseen cause that's already set the change in motion. You must make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Don't hope for it, don't act like it, assume it as already done, so deeply, so naturally, so finally, that your external world becomes irrelevant to your inner knowing. To collapse time, you have to stop watching for proof. You have to stop needing the 3D world to behave differently before you decide to remain in the end. You have to treat the 3D physical world like it's simply catching up. A lagging echo, not a leading voice. This is not pretending. This is not about acting as if in some surface level performance. This is embodiment. This is walking as the version of you who knows it's already done. Because they've already become the one who has it. Not because of evidence, but because of alignment. There is a difference between a wish and a state. A wish can fade. A state holds you if you let it. So the question isn't, how do I stay in the state? The question is, why do I keep stepping out? Is it because you're watching too closely, listening for signs, testing the mirror before you've changed the face? Stop testing the mirror. Change the face. Be loyal to the unseen even when the scene mocks you, even when nothing is moved, even when everything says it's not working. Because the moment you flinch, the moment you check, the moment you waver, you reinforce the old timeline. But if you stay, if you persist, if you commit to embodying the end without negotiating with the visible, then time collapses, structure obeys, and your world bends to match the identity you've chosen. Your job is not to observe. Your job is to embody, fully, repeatedly, without apology, without doubt, without interruption. The law will do the rest. Remember, time isn't the reason it hasn't shown up. Your state is, hold the end. Live from it. Let everything else catch up. If you enjoyed this video and have a deeper understanding now how to close the gap between your current reality and your desired state, type "I live in the end" in the comments. Please like and share this video and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
The realm of manifestation. His teachings, rooted in mystical interpretations of biblical concepts, resonated with seekers of truth around the world. Neville's journey led him to explore the transformative power of assumption, and his wisdom continues to echo through the corridors of time. Neville fervently believed in the creative power of the imagination. He often stated, "Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled," emphasizing that your imaginative capacity shapes your experiences. Central to Neville's teachings was the concept of assumption, the idea that assuming the feeling of already having our desires fulfilled aligns us with the energy needed for manifestation. Ask yourself, what would it feel like if I already had that money, that job, that relationship, that dream vacation? How would I feel if I was truly at peace? Find that feeling and that reality. Imagine it, hold on to it, and act consciously in line with that reality. Assume that reality and watch as rest falls right into place. Neville also encouraged living in the end result of our desires. By mentally residing in the state of having already achieved our goals, we alter our consciousness and attract corresponding experiences. Consequently, you have to slowly learn to script your own reality. Neville advocated for the use of inner conversations and mental scripting. By consciously directing our thoughts and inner dialogues, we script the story of our lives and influence our external reality. As crazy as it might sound, he also believed in the power of revising past events through imagination. By reimagining and revising past experiences, we alter their impact on our present and future. Being one of the most important of his teachings, everything we have just discussed is still centered by the law of assumption. As a kid, you first begin life seeing it through some very skewed but beautiful lens. You're full of wonder, curiosity, and wild imagination. Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? Can I touch a unicorn? All of these, the rambling of a kid's unbridled imaginations, probably make up some of our first and last contacts with true magic and wonder. However, the older we got, the less we got to see and touch this magic. Soon Santa became some ridiculous, whimsical character. The color of the sky and grass no longer fascinated you, and the question why became farther than an afterthought. Somewhere along the line, we forgot how to reimagine the world in our own way. We forgot to assume that our lives could be exactly as we wanted it to. Now that you've gained some insight from Neville Goddard's wisdom, you now know in essence what his teaching centered on. Let's dive into the very core of this exploration, the law of assumption. What is it exactly? At its root, the law of assumption is the recognition that our assumptions, beliefs, and feelings mold our reality. Neville Goddard urged us to transcend the limits of wishful thinking and fully embody the assumption that our desires are not only possible, but are already realized. Imagine planting a seed in fertile soil. The assumption is the soil, nurturing the seedling of your desire until it blooms into your lived experience. It's about living from the end result, not merely wishing for it. In simple words, it's a concept that says you must assume the feeling or reality you desire. Somehow, some way, this reality will find its way to you. Now, this might sound a whole lot like wishful thinking, but walk with me and find out the difference. Wishful thinking often involves passive daydreaming and desiring without a clear intention or conscious engagement. It's like throwing a coin into a fountain and hoping for a miracle without actively participating in the creation process. On the other hand, the law of assumption is an intentional, conscious act. It's about assuming a state of being and embodying the emotions associated with the desired outcome. It's not passive. It's an active engagement with the creative forces of the universe. Wishful thinking might leave you yearning for change. One of the biggest challenges people face with implementing these practices is properly visualizing their assumption. Goddard often stressed the effectiveness of experiencing visualizations from a first-person viewpoint. When you visualize, see the world through your own eyes, immersing yourself in the details and emotions of the assumed reality. Instead of focusing on the process, see yourself living the life you desire. Whether it's financial abundance, a fulfilling relationship, or career success, visualize the end scene vividly. Engage your senses during visualization. Feel the textures, hear the sounds, and experience the emotions associated with your desired reality. Neville emphasized the importance of making your visualizations as sensory rich as possible. Number 4 is first-person perspective. When visualizing, adopt a first-person perspective. See the world through your own eyes in the scenes you imagine. This personalizes the experience and makes it more immersive. Number 5 is feeling is the secret. Focus on the emotional component of your assumptions. Feel the emotions associated with the fulfillment of your desires. The more genuine and intense the emotions, the more effective the assumption. Feeling is the vibrational language that communicates with the universe. Goddard emphasized that it's not just about thinking of your desire, it's about feeling as if your desire has already been fulfilled. This might be hard for many to grasp, not because it is difficult, but simply because it seems a little inadequate, underwhelming, if you will. If you desire financial abundance, feel the joy and security that financial freedom brings. If you seek love, immerse yourself in the warmth and fulfillment of being loved. Your feelings are the magnetic pull that draws your assumptions into your lived reality. Feeling is not merely a side effect of assumption, it's the secret ingredient that catalyzes the manifestation process. Number 6 is to create a mental script. Develop a mental script or story that narrates your life as you wish it to be. Picture each scene with clarity and script the dialogue and events as if they are happening in the present moment. Number 7 is to live from the end. Embrace the concept of living from the end. Act as if your desires have already been fulfilled. Make choices and decisions based on the assumption that your desired reality is your current reality. Number 8 is consistency and repetition. Consistency is crucial. Repeat your affirmations and engage in visualizations regularly. Consistent reinforcement strengthens the neural pathways associated with your assumptions. Consistent assumption is the heartbeat of the law of assumption. It's not a fleeting thought or a momentary belief. It's a sustained and unwavering commitment to the assumption that your desires are on their way to manifestation. God had emphasized that persistence is not about desperation or anxious waiting. It's about confidently and persistently assuming the feeling of the wish being fulfilled, even in the face of external circumstances that might suggest otherwise. Number 9 is positive self-talk. Monitor your internal dialogue. Sometimes that little voice in your head could be getting in your way. Maybe it says you can't do certain things or be certain things. Maybe it says you're not good enough or worthy enough. Whatever the case may be, you must strive to replace negative or doubtful thoughts with positive affirmations that support your conscious assumptions. Positive self-talk reinforces your desired beliefs. Number 10 is detachment from the means. Let go of attachment to specific ways or means through which your desires will manifest. Trust the universe to bring about the fulfillment of your assumptions in ways that may surpass your current understanding. God had emphasized the importance of detaching from the how of manifestation. This principle involves trusting that the universe will orchestrate the means to fulfill your assumptions, often in ways beyond your. Goddard emphasized that consciousness is the key player in the law of assumption. The more aware and intentional your assumptions, the more profound the impact on your reality. By aligning your emotions with the assumed reality, you create a vibrational match that attracts your desires. Consistent and persistent assumption is the key to unlocking the manifestation process. Doubts may arise, but persistence in assumption acts as a steady beacon, guiding one through challenges. Patience is the companion of persistence. Manifestation doesn't always adhere to our expected timelines. Encourage a realistic view of the manifestation journey, understanding that the universe operates on its own divine timing. The law of assumption is not about instant gratification, it's about trust and unwavering belief. Ultimately, this law and its principles have the power to change your life if you so choose. What is it that you desire, and how can you assume that reality to facilitate it actually happening? I hope you have some answers after watching this video. If you enjoyed watching and would love to learn more, then make sure to like the video, share it, and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.
Picture this. You wake up tomorrow with complete amnesia, no memory of past failures, rejections, or disappointments. No internal voice whispering, "Remember last time you tried that." How different would your choices be? How bold would you become? What dreams would you pursue if your past couldn't hold you back? That's not fantasy. That's the power of identity. And right now, you're carrying the energetic imprint of every version of yourself that ever felt small, scared, or not enough. You're walking through life wearing invisible chains, forged from moments you couldn't control, decisions that didn't work out, and words that cut deeper than they should have. But here's what's fascinating. Quantum physics tells us that reality responds to observation, and who you are while observing determines what becomes real. So if you're observing life through the lens of past pain, guess what reality keeps delivering? More of the same. It's not punishment. It's precision. The universe is giving you exactly what you're vibrating, not what you're hoping for. Let me ask you something uncomfortable, something that might make you pause and really consider, what emotion do you feel most consistently throughout your day? And I don't mean when something good happens, or when you're deliberately trying to feel better. I mean your baseline, your emotional home base, the feeling that's always humming quietly in the background of your awareness. Is it excitement, gratitude, joy, a sense of anticipation for what's coming next? Or is it more like anxiety, frustration, that low-grade sense that something's always slightly wrong, that feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop, for things to go sideways, for disappointment to rear its familiar head? Here's the thing most people never realize. Those emotions aren't random. They're not even responses to what's happening around you. They're rehearsed patterns. Emotional habits your nervous system has memorized so deeply that they play automatically. Like background music you've stopped noticing. Your body has become addicted to certain chemical cocktails, stress hormones, worry patterns, the familiar ache of not quite enough. And that emotional background music, that's your vibrational signature. That's what you're broadcasting to the quantum field 24/7. Every cell in your body is like a tiny antenna, transmitting this frequency into the field around you. And the field, being utterly responsive and completely neutral, simply matches what you're putting out. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research reveals something that should shake us all awake. By age 35, 95% of who you are consists of memorized behaviors, emotional reactions, and unconscious habits. In other words, you're not really living, you're replaying. You're a biological recording of your past, playing the same songs over and over while your soul yearns for a new melody. Think about that for a moment. 95%. That means only 5% of your daily experience is actually conscious, present, alive. The rest is just autopilot. Patterns laid down years ago, still running the show. But here's where it gets wild. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking work shows us that the moment you change your perception, you literally rewrite your body's chemistry, which means who you're being biologically, emotionally, energetically, is actively creating the reality you're experiencing. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're the architect of your experience, designing from the blueprint of your identity. This is why willpower fails. This is why positive thinking feels hollow. This is why you can visualize all you want, create vision boards, repeat affirmations, and still feel stuck in the same patterns. Because underneath all that effort, your identity, your deepest sense of who you are, hasn't shifted. You're trying to build a new house on an old foundation, and the structure keeps collapsing back into familiar shapes. Think of yourself as a radio tower, constantly broadcasting a signal. That signal isn't your words or your vision board. It isn't what you post on social media or what you tell your friends you want. It's your state of being, your emotional baseline, the energy you carry when no one's watching, when you're alone with your thoughts, when life strips away all the pretense, and you're face to face with who you really believe yourself to be. And the universe, it's like a giant radio, perfectly tuned to whatever frequency you're transmitting. It doesn't judge your signal. It doesn't decide whether you deserve better. It simply responds to what you're putting out, matching it with mathematical precision. You might be saying, I want love. But if your baseline frequency is, I'm not enough, I always get hurt, or good things don't happen to people like me, you'll keep attracting situations that confirm those beliefs. Not because the universe is cruel, but because it's precise. It's not giving you what you think you want. It's giving you exactly what you are. Here's where quantum physics becomes deeply spiritual, where science meets the sacred. The observer effect tells us that consciousness collapses potential into reality. But here's the twist that changes everything. Who you are while observing determines what collapses from the infinite field of possibilities. Your future self isn't some distant possibility you're trying to reach through years of struggle and self-improvement. They exist right now, in this moment, in a parallel frequency. The version of you who is confident, abundant, loved, healthy, fulfilled. They're as real as the version reading these words. The only thing separating you from them is your vibration. The only distance between here and there is the gap between who you think you are and who you truly are. Neville Goddard, that brilliant mystic, said it perfectly. You don't attract, you select. Every moment,
You're selecting from infinite possibilities based on your state of consciousness, and your identity is the selector. Your sense of self is the lens through which reality appears. Close your eyes for a moment. Take a deep breath and let yourself imagine infinite versions of you existing simultaneously across the multiverse. One version is thriving in perfect health, their body vibrant and alive. Another is in their dream relationship, experiencing love that feels both passionate and peaceful. Another has achieved financial freedom, able to give generously and live without the stress of money worries. Another radiates unshakable confidence, speaking their truth without fear, creating the change they want to see in the world. These aren't fantasies. These aren't just wishful thinking or spiritual bypassing. According to quantum mechanics, they're real. The multiverse isn't science fiction. It's science fact. Every possibility, every potential timeline, every version of you exists simultaneously in the quantum field. Your job isn't to create these versions of yourself. Your job is to become vibrationally compatible with the one you want to experience. You don't build your future self. You tune into them. You don't manifest your dreams. You align with the timeline where they're already real. But here's what stops most people. They try to reach their future self from their current identity. They try to stretch who they are now, to grab hold of who they could become. But that's not how quantum mechanics works. That's not how consciousness operates. You don't extend from your limitations. You collapse into your truth. Let's try something right now. Imagine the version of you who already lives your desired reality walking into this room. Not as a stranger, not as someone you have to become, but as someone you're remembering. Feel their presence. Notice how they carry themselves. The ease in their shoulders, the clarity in their eyes, the quiet confidence in their voice that comes not from arrogance, but from alignment. They don't need to convince anyone of anything. They don't need to prove their worth or defend their choices. They simply radiate truth. They've stopped arguing with reality and started dancing with it. They've released the need to be right about their limitations and embraced the possibility of being wrong about them. Look closer at this version of yourself. See how they breathe. Deeper, slower, like they have all the time in the world, because they trust the timing of their life. Notice how they speak, with less urgency, less need to fill the silence, because they're comfortable in their own presence. Watch how they move through the world, not rushing towards something they lack, but flowing with what they are. Now ask them, what did you have to release to become this free? And listen, not with your mind, but with your heart. What whispers back to you? What stories did they stop telling themselves? What identities did they outgrow? What pain did they finally allow to heal, instead of carrying it like a badge of honor? Because here's the secret that spiritual teachers have known for millennia. Your higher self isn't built by adding more. It's revealed by subtracting, peeling away layers of conditioning, pain, and limiting beliefs until only essence remains. You don't become someone new. You remember who you've always been underneath all the programming. The caterpillar doesn't try to become a butterfly. It dissolves completely in the chrysalis, releases its old form entirely, and allows something that was always encoded in its DNA to emerge. The butterfly was always there, waiting. The caterpillar just had to surrender who it thought it was. Here's where transformation becomes real, where we move beyond understanding into embodiment. We're going to do more than discuss this. We're going to experience it. Because no amount of information, no matter how profound, will change your life until it becomes integrated into your nervous system, until it shifts from knowing to being. First, give your current identity a name, not to shame it or judge it, but to recognize it as a pattern rather than the truth of who you are. Maybe it's the doubter, the perfectionist, the one who always settles, the anxious one, the people pleaser. Whatever captures the energy of who you've been, don't overthink it. Let the name arise naturally. This identity served you once. It kept you safe when safety was what you needed most. It helped you navigate a world that felt unpredictable or hostile. It was your survival strategy, your coping mechanism, your way of making sense of experiences that didn't make sense. Honor it for what it was, a temporary costume for a temporary chapter of your life. Now visualize yourself carrying this old identity like a heavy backpack, like luggage you've been dragging through airports for years. Feel its weight on your shoulders, the way it slows your steps and curves your spine. This is the energetic burden you've been carrying, not just your own pain, but generations of pain, cultural conditioning, inherited limitations that were never yours to begin with. See yourself stopping on this journey, setting the weight down, unstrapping the backpack of old beliefs, unpacking the suitcase of past hurts. Feel your spine straightening, your breath deepening, as you release what was never meant to be permanent. Thank this old version of yourself. Speak to it with the compassion you would show a child who did their best with what they had. Say, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for keeping me alive. But I no longer need this kind of protection. I'm safe to be who I really am now. Then turn and walk away. Feel the lightness in your body, the space that opens up when you're no longer carrying the weight of who you used to be. This isn't abandonment, it's graduation. You're not rejecting your past, you're integrating its lessons and moving forward unburdened. Now stand up, right now, wherever you are. Assume the posture of your highest self, not performed or forced, but natural. How would they breathe? From their belly, slow and deep. How would they hold their head? Lifted, eyes soft but clear. How would they position their shoulders? Relaxed, open, no longer protecting against attacks that aren't coming. Feel this new alignment in your body. This isn't pretending. This is remembering. This is what you feel like when you're not defending, when you're not afraid, when you're not trying to be anything other than what you are. Place your hand on your heart and feel it beating. This heart has been with you through everything, every triumph and tragedy, every moment of joy and despair. It has never stopped working for you, never given up on you, even when you gave up on yourself. Let it anchor you in this moment of choice. Now speak these words, not as a mantra to repeat mindlessly, but as a declaration of truth. I release who I was to become who I am. Feel the vibration of those words in your chest. Say them again. I release who I was to become who I am. Let them resonate in your bones, your blood, your DNA. This is more than affirmation. This is activation. When you truly shift your identity at this cellular level, reality doesn't slowly adapt over months and years. It reorganizes, sometimes gradually, sometimes suddenly. At first, you might notice subtle changes. A thought you've never had before. A feeling of lightness you can't explain. A sense that something fundamental has shifted even though everything looks the same. Then the external signs begin to appear. A person reaching out unexpectedly with exactly the opportunity you've been seeking. A solution to a long-standing problem suddenly becoming obvious. A feeling of being in the right place at the right time, as if the universe is conspiring to support your new trajectory. This isn't coincidence. This is coherence. When your inner world aligns, when your thoughts, emotions, and actions become consistent with your true nature, your outer world must follow. It's not magic, it's mathematics. It's the natural consequence of shifting from resistance to reception, from contradiction to coherence. But here's where most people stumble. They do this work once and expect permanent change. They experience a moment of clarity or breakthrough and then wonder why the old patterns creep back in. Understanding this process is crucial for lasting transformation. Your nervous system has been running old programs for years, maybe decades. It's going to take consistent practice to install new software. Every morning becomes a choice point. Every moment of stress becomes an opportunity to choose differently. Every time fear arises, you get to decide, will I respond from my old identity or my true one? This is your daily practice, your sacred work. Before the world crashes in with its demands and distractions, before you check your phone or start your to-do list, ask yourself, which version of me will I choose to be today? Not as a performance for others, but as a gift to yourself. Which frequency will you embody? Which timeline will you align with? Because every moment is a choice between your old self and your true self, between fear and love, between limitation and expansion, between the story of who you were and the truth of who you are. The old patterns will come knocking. They'll show up as familiar emotions, triggered responses, the voice that says, "Who do you think you are?" Or "This won't last," or "You're setting yourself up for disappointment." When they do, don't fight them. Don't judge yourself for their appearance. Simply recognize them as old programming and choose again. This work isn't just personal. It's planetary. Every person who breaks free from their old identity patterns creates a ripple in the collective consciousness. You're not just changing your life. You're contributing to a species-wide awakening. Every time you choose love over fear, expansion over contraction, truth over conditioning, you make it easier for others to do the same. The morphic field that Rupert Sheldrake describes means that once enough people embody a new way of being, it becomes accessible to everyone. Your healing doesn't just heal you, it heals your family lineage, your community, the collective human experience. Your liberation liberates more than just yourself. So here's my invitation to you. If this message has stirred something deep within you, if you feel that familiar tingling of recognition, if some part of you is saying, "Yes, this is what I've been searching for," don't just consume this content, embody it. Don't just understand these concepts, live them. The transformation you seek is not found in more information, more courses, more techniques. It's found in the willingness to stop being who you've always been, and to start being who you've always been, underneath who you've always been. Comment below, "My old self has been released," not as a social media trend, but as an energetic declaration to the universe that you're no longer available for the past. Let it be your signature in the quantum field, your vote for a new reality, your commitment to a new way of being. And if you're ready to dive deeper into this frequency, to be part of a community that's actively collapsing old timelines and stepping into quantum possibilities, then subscribe. Not just to stay informed, but to stay transformed. Because this journey is easier when you're surrounded by others who understand what you're going through, who can witness your growth and reflect back your truth when you forget it. You are not your history. You are not your past mistakes. You are not the voice in your head that says you're not ready, not worthy, not enough. You are not the child who was hurt, the teenager who felt rejected, the young adult who made choices from fear instead of love. You are pure consciousness, temporarily wearing the costume of a human experience. You are the observer behind the observed, the awareness in which all experiences arise and pass away. You are the space in which thoughts appear, the silence between words, the stillness that remains when everything else changes. And you get to choose in every moment which costume you put on, which identity you embody, which version of reality you collapse from the infinite field of possibilities. The version of you that lives your dreams isn't coming. They're not waiting for you to get your act together, to heal all your wounds, to become perfect enough to deserve the life you desire. They're here. They're present. They're ready. They exist right now in the quantum field, in a frequency just slightly different from where you currently reside. The only question is, are you ready to meet them? Are you willing to release who you think you are to become who you truly are? Are you prepared to trade the familiar pain of your limitations for the unfamiliar joy of your freedom? The old you has served its purpose. It brought you to this moment, this realization, this choice point. It was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to be a bridge, and bridges are for crossing, not for living on. The new you, your authentic self, your true nature, your quantum identity, is already writing the next chapter. They're already living the life you've been dreaming of. They're already embodying the love, abundance, health, and purpose you seek. And reality, it's listening, it's responding, it's rearranging itself around your new frequency, even as you read these words. The field is malleable, responsive, alive. It's not waiting for you to deserve better. It's waiting for you to vibrate differently. Welcome to your quantum identity reset. Welcome to who you've always been underneath all the programming, conditioning, and pain. Welcome to the version of you that's been waiting patiently in the wings for permission to step onto the stage of your life. The field is waiting. Your future self is waiting. The life you've been seeking is waiting. What are you waiting for? Welcome to this powerful collection of I Remember When affirmations based on Neville Goddard's transformative technique. This method works by having you mentally live from the end, imagining you've already achieved financial comfort and abundance, then looking back at your past struggles as distant memories. The magic happens when you genuinely feel as though you're remembering actual experiences rather than just repeating words. As you hear each statement, allow yourself to feel the relief, gratitude, and satisfaction of someone who has moved from financial stress to financial peace. These affirmations are designed for people ready to step into true financial abundance, having plenty of money, not just enough to get by. This is about creating wealth that gives you real choices, freedom, and the ability to live generously while building a prosperous future. Listen to these daily, preferably when you're relaxed and can truly feel into each statement. Let yourself experience the emotion of having already transformed your financial reality. Remember, according to Neville Goddard, assumption creates reality. So assume the feeling of financial abundance as your natural state. Now, let's begin. I remember when I thought wealth was for other people, before I realized it was my birthright. I remember when I used to check my bank balance nervously, before money became a non-issue. I remember when I used to count every penny, before abundance flowed to me effortlessly. I remember when I lived paycheck to paycheck, before multiple income streams opened up. I remember when I feared unexpected expenses, before I had more than enough for everything. I remember when I used to decline invitations due to cost, before money ceased to be a consideration. I remember when I postponed purchases, before I could afford anything I desired. I remember when I stressed about bills, before they became insignificant amounts. I remember when I worked so hard for so little, before wealth came to me with ease. I remember when I used to worry about money, before I discovered how abundant I truly am. I remember when I had no emergency fund, before I built a comfortable financial cushion. I remember when unexpected bills terrified me, before I had money set aside for surprises. I remember when I avoided looking at my account balance, before it became a source of joy. I remember when saving seemed impossible, before money began accumulating naturally. I remember when I lived in financial anxiety, before peace and security became my norm. I remember when I couldn't imagine financial stability, before steady abundance flowed to me. I remember when every purchase required careful thought, before spending became stress-free. I remember when I felt behind financially, before I found my perfect pace of prosperity. I remember when I compared my situation to others, before I embraced my unique path to abundance. I remember when financial goals seemed unreachable, before they manifested with ease. I remember when I shopped with a strict budget, before I could buy what I needed comfortably. I remember when I chose the cheapest option, always, before quality became affordable. I remember when eating out was a rare treat, before I could enjoy meals without worry. I remember when my car repairs caused panic, before I had money for maintenance. I remember when my living space felt cramped, before I found my perfect, comfortable home. I remember when vacations required months of saving, before I could travel when I wanted. I remember when name brands seemed wasteful, before I could choose based on preference. I remember when I waited for sales for everything, before I could buy things when needed. I remember when new clothes were rare purchases, before I could refresh my wardrobe easily. I remember when entertainment meant free activities, before I could enjoy any experience I wanted. I remember when I couldn't help family financially, before I could support those I love. I remember when charity felt like a burden, before giving became a natural joy. I remember when I felt jealous of others' success before I celebrated, knowing mine was coming. I remember when I held on to every dollar before sharing felt safe and abundant. I remember when I felt guilty about wanting more money before I embraced my worthy desires. I remember when I calculated tips carefully before I could tip generously without stress. I remember when gifts had to be small before I could give what truly mattered. I remember when I had to borrow from others before I became someone who could lend. I remember when I said I can't afford it before I can manage that became natural. I remember when I felt different from comfortable people before I joined them naturally. I remember when bills felt overwhelming before I could pay them without stress. I remember when my credit was a worry before my financial standing became solid. I remember when I needed to borrow money before I had enough for my needs. I remember when money decisions kept me awake before financial peace became natural. I remember when economic news scared me before I felt secure regardless of conditions. I remember when I tracked every expense before money flowed smoothly through my life. I remember when I delayed purchases, hoping for better prices before I could buy when ready. I remember when I worked overtime just to stay afloat before my regular income was sufficient. I remember when I wished for others' financial ease before I created my own comfortable life. I remember when managing money felt complicated before simplicity brought me abundance. I remember when my paycheck barely covered my needs before money flowed more freely. I remember when I worked extra hours just to get by before abundance came with less effort. I remember when raises seemed impossible before my income grew consistently. I remember when I felt stuck in my job before better opportunities opened up. I remember when I doubted my worth before I received what I truly deserved. I remember when I accepted less than I wanted before fair compensation became normal. I remember when work felt like a struggle before it became a source of prosperity. I remember when I feared losing my job before security and stability found me. I remember when side income seemed necessary before my main income became sufficient. I remember when I felt underpaid before abundance reflected my true value. I remember when I believed money was the root of evil before I understood it amplifies good. I remember when I thought wanting money was selfish before I realized it serves everyone. I remember when I felt unworthy of wealth before I claimed my abundant inheritance. I remember when I feared money would change me before I discovered it revealed my true self. I remember when I thought money was scarce before I saw infinite abundance everywhere. I remember when I competed for resources before I understood there's enough for all. I remember when I criticized the wealthy before I became one of them gracefully. I remember when I thought money was hard to make before it flowed like water. I remember when I believed I had to sacrifice for wealth before ease became my way. I remember when I thought money corrupted people before I used it to spread love. I remember when I focused on lack before abundance became my constant experience. I remember when money caused stress before it brought only peace and joy. I remember when I doubted my financial future before prosperity became inevitable. I remember when I felt poor despite having enough before I felt rich with everything. I remember when I chased money desperately before it chased me with devotion. I remember when I thought I needed to earn wealth before I realized I simply had to accept it. I remember when abundance was a dream, before it became my living reality every single day. I remember when I thought wealth was for other people, before I realized it was my birthright. I remember when I used to check my bank balance nervously, before money became a non-issue. I remember when I used to count every penny, before abundance flowed to me effortlessly. I remember when I lived paycheck to paycheck, before multiple income streams opened up. I remember when I feared unexpected expenses, before I had more than enough for everything. I remember when I used to decline invitations due to cost, before money ceased to be a consideration. I remember when I postponed purchases, before I could afford anything I desired. I remember when I stressed about bills, before they became insignificant amounts. I remember when I worked so hard for so little, before wealth came to me with ease. I remember when I used to worry about money, before I discovered how abundant I truly am. I remember when I had no emergency fund, before I built a comfortable financial cushion. I remember when unexpected bills terrified me, before I had money set aside for surprises. I remember when I avoided looking at my account balance, before it became a source of joy. I remember when saving seemed impossible, before money began accumulating naturally. I remember when I lived in financial anxiety, before peace and security became my norm. I remember when I couldn't imagine financial stability, before steady abundance flowed to me. I remember when every purchase required careful thought, before spending became stress-free. I remember when I felt behind financially, before I found my perfect pace of prosperity. I remember when I compared my situation to others, before I embraced my unique path to abundance. I remember when financial goals seemed unreachable, before they manifested with ease. I remember when I shopped with a strict budget, before I could buy what I needed comfortably. I remember when I chose the cheapest option, always, before quality became affordable. I remember when eating out was a rare treat, before I could enjoy meals without worry. I remember when my car repairs caused panic, before I had money for maintenance. I remember when my living space felt cramped, before I found my perfect, comfortable home. I remember when vacations required months of saving, before I could travel when I wanted. I remember when name brands seemed wasteful, before I could choose based on preference. I remember when I waited for sales for everything, before I could buy things when needed. I remember when new clothes were rare purchases, before I could refresh my wardrobe easily. I remember when entertainment meant free activities, before I could enjoy any experience I wanted. I remember when I couldn't help family financially, before I could support those I love. I remember when charity felt like a burden, before giving became a natural joy. I remember when I felt jealous of others' success, before I celebrated, knowing mine was coming. I remember when I held on to every dollar, before sharing felt safe and abundant. I remember when I felt guilty about wanting more money, before I embraced my worthy desires. I remember when I calculated tips carefully, before I could tip generously without stress. I remember when gifts had to be small, before I could give what truly mattered. I remember when I had to borrow from others, before I became someone who could lend. I remember when I said I can't afford it, before I can manage that became natural. I remember when I felt different from comfortable people, before I joined them naturally. I remember when bills felt overwhelming, before I could pay them without stress. I remember when my credit was a worry, before my financial standing became solid. I remember when I needed to borrow money before I had enough for my needs. I remember when money decisions kept me awake before financial peace became natural. I remember when economic news scared me before I felt secure regardless of conditions. I remember when I tracked every expense before money flowed smoothly through my life. I remember when I delayed purchases, hoping for better prices before I could buy when ready. I remember when I worked overtime just to stay afloat before my regular income was sufficient. I remember when I wished for others' financial ease before I created my own comfortable life. I remember when managing money felt complicated before simplicity brought me abundance. I remember when my paycheck barely covered my needs before money flowed more freely. I remember when I worked extra hours just to get by before abundance came with less effort. I remember when raises seemed impossible before my income grew consistently. I remember when I felt stuck in my job before better opportunities opened up. I remember when I doubted my worth before I received what I truly deserved. I remember when I accepted less than I wanted before fair compensation became normal. I remember when work felt like a struggle before it became a source of prosperity. I remember when I feared losing my job before security and stability found me. I remember when side income seemed necessary before my main income became sufficient. I remember when I felt underpaid before abundance reflected my true value. I remember when I believed money was the root of evil before I understood it amplifies good. I remember when I thought wanting money was selfish before I realized it serves everyone. I remember when I felt unworthy of wealth before I claimed my abundant inheritance. I remember when I feared money would change me before I discovered it revealed my true self. I remember when I thought money was scarce before I saw infinite abundance everywhere. I remember when I competed for resources before I understood there's enough for all. I remember when I criticized the wealthy before I became one of them gracefully. I remember when I thought money was hard to make before it flowed like water. I remember when I believed I had to sacrifice for wealth before ease became my way. I remember when I thought money corrupted people before I used it to spread love. I remember when I focused on lack before abundance became my constant experience. I remember when money caused stress before it brought only peace and joy. I remember when I doubted my financial future before prosperity became inevitable. I remember when I felt poor despite having enough before I felt rich with everything. I remember when I chased money desperately before it chased me with devotion. I remember when I thought I needed to earn wealth before I realized I simply had to accept it. I remember when abundance was a dream before it became my living reality every single day. Congratulations on completing these powerful I remember when affirmations. You've just spent time mentally rehearsing your abundant future, as if it were already your past. And that's exactly how transformation begins. Remember, consistency is key with Neville Goddard's techniques. The more you practice assuming the feeling of already having financial abundance, the more natural this state becomes. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and reality. So each time you genuinely felt these statements, you were literally rewiring your relationship with money. Don't just listen to these affirmations, truly feel them. Let yourself experience the relief, the joy, the security of financial abundance. When you catch yourself worrying about money, return to these feelings. When you see evidence of lack, Remind yourself of your abundant truth. Your financial transformation isn't just possible. From this moment forward, it's inevitable. You've already claimed it by assuming the feeling. Now watch as your outer world shifts to match your inner conviction. Keep assuming, keep feeling, keep knowing that abundance is your natural state. The money you desire is already on its way to you. Thank you for joining me in this powerful practice. Remember to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more abundance content, and share your manifestation success stories in the comments below. Until next time, stay abundant.
Dear friends, I'm going to ask you to do something that might feel impossible right now. I want you to imagine that every financial struggle you've ever had was based on a complete misunderstanding, a cosmic joke, a magic trick where you've been staring at the magician's left hand while the real secret was happening in plain sight. What if I told you that lack doesn't exist in the universe, that it's never existed, that every moment of poverty you've experienced was like being thirsty while standing in the ocean? Stay with me, because this isn't going to be another lecture about positive thinking or gratitude. This is about revealing the fundamental structure of reality itself. Let me share something with you that changed everything for me. I was studying the nature of reality, truly studying it, not just philosophizing, and I discovered something extraordinary. In the entire universe, there is no such thing as nothing. Even what we call empty space isn't empty. It's teeming with potential energy, with invisible fields that physicists are only beginning to understand. The vacuum of space contains more energy than all the matter in the visible universe combined. Think about that. The emptiness contains everything. So if nature abhors a vacuum, if emptiness itself is actually fullness, what does that tell you about lack? It tells you that lack is a perceptual error, a misreading of reality, a belief imposed on abundance. Let me explain this through a lens you might not expect: mathematics. When you have infinity and you subtract 1,000,000 from it, what do you have left? Infinity. When you subtract 1,000,000,000, infinity. When you subtract everything you can possibly imagine, still infinity. You cannot diminish infinity. It's mathematically impossible. Now here's what most people miss. Consciousness itself is infinite. I'm not speaking poetically. I mean this literally. Your awareness right now has no boundaries. Close your eyes and try to find the edge of your consciousness. You can't. It extends infinitely. And if consciousness is infinite, and all creation exists within consciousness, then the idea of lack is like trying to have half of infinity. It's nonsensical. It cannot exist. Yet you've spent your whole life believing in it. You've been doing impossible mathematics, trying to divide infinity into enough and not enough. Here's what actually happens when you experience lack. You're not experiencing the absence of abundance. You're experiencing your attention focused on absence. Let me give you an example. Right now, as you're listening to my voice, there are thousands of sounds you're not hearing. Your refrigerator humming, traffic outside, your own breathing, the blood rushing through your ears. Are those sounds absent? No, they're present. You're just not attending to them. The moment I direct your attention to them, they appear in your awareness. They were always there. You were just focused elsewhere. Lack works the same way. When you focus on what you don't have, you create the experience of lack. Not because things are actually absent, but because your attention has narrowed to exclude everything else. It's like standing in a room full of treasure, staring at the one empty corner and declaring there's nothing here. The treasure doesn't disappear because you're not looking at it. But in your experience, it might as well not exist. This is the optical illusion. You think you're observing reality, but you're actually creating your experience through selective attention. Let me prove to you right now that you're surrounded by abundance even if you can't see it yet. Take a breath, a deep one. Did you pay for that air? Did you earn the right to breathe? Did you have to prove yourself worthy of oxygen? No. It was freely given, infinitely available. You've probably taken 500 million breaths in your life without once worrying, what if I run out of air? That's abundance. That's how the universe actually operates. Now you might say, but Neville, I can't pay my rent with air. True. but you're missing the principle. The same creative power that provides air without you asking also provides everything else. The same source, the same intelligence, the same infinite abundance. The only difference is your belief about it. You trust that air will be there, so you don't hoard it. You don't wake up anxious about oxygen supply. You just breathe. But with money, you don't trust. You grip, you worry, you hoard, you believe it's scarce. And that belief, not the actual availability of money, creates your experience of lack. So if lack doesn't exist in reality, where does it exist? In assumption, in belief. In the stories you tell yourself. I discovered this through direct experience. Years ago, I was completely broke. I mean truly destitute. And I was convinced that my poverty was caused by external circumstances, the economy, my lack of connections, my bad luck. But then I started to experiment with consciousness. I began to assume I was wealthy even though every physical fact contradicted it. And here's what I noticed. The moment I assumed wealth, I stopped experiencing lack even before a single dollar appeared. The anxiety vanished. The desperation evaporated. The constant mental calculations about what I could or couldn't afford, gone. Why? Because lack isn't about dollars. It's about a state of consciousness. When you're in the state of lack, you could have $1 million and still feel poor. You'd worry about losing it. You'd calculate how long it would last. You'd still experience scarcity. But when you're in the state of abundance, you can have very little money and feel completely wealthy. You'd trust. You'd be at ease. You'd know more is coming. The state is the experience. The money is just a symbol. Now, let me give you something radical, a practice that cuts through all the complexity. For the next 24 hours, I want you to operate under one assumption: I live in an abundant universe and I lack nothing. Not I'm trying to manifest abundance. Not I hope to be wealthy someday. But I lack nothing right now. Here's how you practice this. When a bill arrives, instead of how will I pay this, say the money for this already exists. I'm just letting it find me. When you want something, instead of I can't afford it, say this or something better is already mine in consciousness. When you see someone with wealth, instead of envy, say their abundance is proof that abundance exists. And what exists for one exists for all. Notice what happens. I'm not saying your bank account will instantly fill, though it might. I'm saying your experience will shift. You'll feel lighter, freer, more creative, more open. And that shift in experience is the shift in consciousness. And consciousness is the only cause. Here's something that will blow your mind. The reason most people don't receive abundance is because they're constantly broadcasting I don't have. Think about it. When you worry about money, you're saying I don't have enough. When you check prices anxiously, you're saying I don't have enough. When you feel stressed about bills, you're saying I don't have enough. You're like a radio station broadcasting on the frequency of lack 24/7. And the universe, which is just consciousness reflecting back to you, responds. You're right, you don't have enough. Not because there isn't enough, but because you've claimed lack as your identity. Now here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing it, stop desperately wanting it, stop broadcasting lack, it comes. Why? Because you've changed frequencies. You've moved from I don't have to I am, and I am is the name of God. It's the creative power itself. It's pure abundance. When you rest in I am, not I am trying or I am hoping, but simply I am, you're in alignment with the source of all abundance. And what you're aligned with, you receive. Let me tell you the real secret that no one talks about. Abundance isn't something you get. It's something you are. You are not a human being trying to attract abundance. You are abundance itself, temporarily convinced you're not. It's like a wave on the ocean thinking it's separate from water, or a branch thinking it's separate from the tree. You can't be separate from abundance because abundance is your source. It's what you're made of. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a star. You are literally made of stardust, the most abundant substance in the universe. Every thought you think comes from infinite intelligence. Every breath you take comes from infinite life. Every moment you exist, you're sustained by infinite power. How then could you possibly lack anything? The lack you experience isn't because you're separated from abundance. It's because you believe you are. And the moment you stop believing the lie, you wake up to what's always been true. You are not in abundance. You are abundance. So how do you live as abundance when your bank account says otherwise? You start acting from abundance instead of toward it. Here's what I mean. A person acting toward abundance says, when I get money, I'll be generous. A person acting from abundance says, I'm generous now even with little, because generosity is who I am. A person acting toward abundance says, I need to save every penny. A person acting from abundance says, I manage my resources wisely and trust more is always coming. A person acting toward abundance says, I can't do what I want until I'm rich. A person acting from abundance says, I make rich decisions now within my means. Do you see the shift? You're not waiting to be abundant. You're being abundant now with whatever you have. And this isn't pretending. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is recognizing that abundance is a consciousness, not a circumstance. Here's the final truth I want to leave you with. Lack was never your problem. Your problem was believing in lack. The universe has never held back from you. You held back from the universe. Abundance has always been here, infinite and available. You just learned to look at the one empty corner instead of the treasure-filled room. But now you know. Now you see, lack is a lie. Not because I said so, but because reality itself proves it. Moment by moment, breath by breath, you are here. You are alive. You are consciousness experiencing itself. And consciousness is infinite, eternal, and abundant. So stop trying to get abundance. You already are it. Stop trying to manifest wealth. You already contain it. Stop waiting for the universe to give you permission. You are the universe expressing as you. Claim it, own it, be it. Not tomorrow, not when conditions change. Now. Because lack is a lie and you are the truth. My friend, I'm not sharing this with you to motivate you or inspire you. I'm sharing it to wake you up. You've been asleep in the dream of lack, and it's time to wake up. Look around you. Really look. The abundance is everywhere. You are swimming in abundance, calling yourself thirsty. So here's what you're going to do. Stop rehearsing lack. Stop talking about what you don't have. Stop agreeing with poverty when it knocks on your door. Start being the abundance you seek. Start acting from fullness. Start living as though the universe is rigged in your favor, because it is. And watch what happens. Watch how fast your world transforms when you stop believing the lie. Lack is a lie. You are abundance. Live accordingly. Thank you, and good evening. As always, thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of consciousness. Remember, you are not here by accident. You are here because your soul is ready for this truth. Take these teachings and let them transform not just your mind, but your entire reality. Until we meet again in consciousness, keep assuming your greatness and living from the end of your desires. This is Best of Lectures, and I'll see you in the next video.
Have you ever wondered why financial abundance seems to flow easily to some people, while others struggle their entire lives? I want to share something powerful with you today that might challenge everything you believe about money and wealth creation. Look at your bank account right now. What story is it telling you? That you don't have enough? That you're struggling to make ends meet? That financial freedom is somewhere in the distant future, always just out of reach? What if I told you that story is merely an illusion, a mirage created by your own mind? The greatest barrier to your financial abundance isn't out there in the economy, job market, or your circumstances. It's within your own mind. This isn't just motivation or positive thinking. This is about understanding the sophisticated machinery of your consciousness and how it quite literally creates your financial reality. Let me ask you something deeply personal. If you woke up tomorrow with $10 million in your account, how would you truly feel? Excited? Relieved? Or maybe strangely uncomfortable? That discomfort, that subtle uneasiness at the thought of sudden wealth, reveals something profound about your relationship with money. For most of us, our connection to wealth is complicated by deep-seated beliefs we've absorbed throughout our lives, often without realizing it. Research in behavioral psychology shows that an astonishing 95% of people unconsciously reject wealth, even when it's directly within their reach. They sabotage opportunities, make self-defeating financial decisions, or simply fail to recognize abundance when it's staring them in the face. Think about the messages you've heard about money throughout your life. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy and corrupt. You have to work hard for every dollar. People like us don't get rich. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. These aren't just harmless phrases. They're sophisticated programming that has created neural pathways in your brain. They've installed mental blocks that are actively repelling wealth from your life right now, in this very moment. These beliefs don't just influence your conscious thoughts, they shape your subconscious reactions, your instinctive decisions, and even your ability to recognize financial opportunities when they appear. Let's talk about the neuroscience behind your financial reality. Your brain is a meaning-making machine, designed to maintain what feels familiar and safe. If you've spent years living paycheck to paycheck, that pattern becomes your normal, and your brain actively works to maintain that status quo, even if consciously you want more. This explains why simply wishing for money or repeating affirmations often doesn't create lasting change. You're trying to override deep neural pathways with surface-level technique. It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a house with a crumbling foundation. Neuroscientists have discovered that your brain forms default pathways, habits of thought that become your automatic responses to money. These pathways dictate how you perceive financial opportunities, how you handle money when you have it, and even how comfortable you feel in environments of wealth. But here's where things get truly exciting. The field of neuroplasticity has shown us that these pathways can be rewired at any age. Your brain possesses an incredible ability to form new connections based on your thoughts, beliefs, and experiences. When you understand this, you realize that your financial situation isn't fixed. It's fluid, responsive, and waiting for you to reprogram the command. Let's go deeper and start with a fundamental truth that most financial education completely misses. Money isn't what you think it is. Money isn't the paper in your wallet or the numbers in your account. At its core, money is simply a shared belief system, an idea we've collectively agreed to follow. Those dollar bills, just paper with ink. Your bank balance, just digits on a screen. What gives money its power is the meaning we attach to it, the belief that it holds value. Quantum physics has revealed that reality at its most fundamental level is not the solid, unchangeable thing we perceive with our senses. Matter itself is mostly empty space. What appears solid is actually energy vibrating at specific frequencies. The version of reality you experience, including your financial reality, depends on your thoughts and beliefs, which shape what you allow into your life. In quantum terms, you're collapsing probability waves into particles, turning potential into experience through the act of observation and expectation. This isn't pseudoscience, it's cutting-edge physics applied to your everyday life. Your consciousness is not just passively observing reality, it's actively participating in creating it. When you truly understand this, money transforms from something you chase to something you tune into, like adjusting the dial on a radio to receive a frequency that's always broadcasting. So how can we break free from our scarcity consciousness? Most of us were conditioned from childhood to see money as scarce and difficult to obtain. We were taught that only the lucky few can truly be wealthy, that there's only so much prosperity to go around, and someone else's gain must mean our loss. This zero-sum thinking creates what I call scarcity blindness, the inability to see abundance even when it surrounds you. It's like wearing sunglasses indoors and complaining about the darkness. But what if abundance is actually our natural state? What if the flow of wealth is always available to us, and we've just been blocking it with our limiting belief? I invite you to consider a radical new perspective. What if money isn't something to chase or hoard, but a tool that flows freely when you're aligned with abundance? What if financial struggle isn't a reality to overcome, but an illusion to dispel? Imagine viewing your relationship with money not from a place of fear or lack, but from a deep knowledge that abundance is your birthright, as natural as breathing. This isn't positive thinking. It's about fundamentally changing how you see yourself in relation to wealth. It's about removing the internal barriers that have been blocking your natural state of prosperity. Here's something crucial that many manifestation teachers miss. Your emotions are the true currency of creation. Your thoughts matter. Yes. Your actions matter. Certainly. But it's your emotions, your felt experience of life that truly shape your financial reality. Think about it. When you worry about money, what do you feel? Anxiety, tension, constriction? These emotions create a specific energetic signature that repels the very thing you're trying to attract. Contrast that with how you feel when you're confident about your finances. Open, expansive, peaceful, generous. This emotional state creates a completely different vibration, one that naturally attracts more abundance. The key insight here is that your emotional state around money isn't just a reaction to your financial situation, it's actually creating it. This is why simply thinking positive thoughts about money while feeling scared about your bills doesn't work. Your emotions will always overpower your thoughts in the manifestation process. So how do you change your emotional relationship with money? It starts with awareness. Notice how you feel when you check your bank account, pay bills, or make purchases. These emotional responses reveal your deepest beliefs about money. Once you're aware, you can begin to shift. Find memories or experiences where you felt abundant, regardless of the amount of money involved. Perhaps it was a moment of generosity, or a time when you had exactly what you needed. Revisit these feelings regularly until they become more familiar than scarcity. Your assumptions create your reality. Every part of your life, including your finances, reflects the assumptions you hold about yourself and what you believe you deserve. Instead of trying to force external change, fully embody the reality of already having achieved what you desire. This isn't about focusing on what you want. It's about becoming who you would be if you already had it. It's identity-based transformation at its most profound. Imagine for a moment, who would you be if you were already financially abundant? How would you move through your day as your wealthy self? How would you make decisions? How would you carry yourself? What thoughts would naturally arise? This isn't pretending or fake it till you make it. It's a profound psychological and energetic transformation that rewires your brain and aligns your energy with abundance. When you consistently assume the state of being wealthy, your subconscious mind begins to accept it as truth. And once this happens, your subconscious works tirelessly to turn that inner belief into outer reality. It influences your perceptions, your decisions, the opportunities you notice, and even how others respond to you. When you assume the identity of a wealthy person, not in an arrogant way, but in a natural, confident way, that assumption gradually solidifies into your physical experience. Developing wealth consciousness requires more than occasional visualization or sporadic affirmations. It's about creating a new relationship with the entire concept of abundance. Here's what wealth consciousness truly looks like. Number 1, seeing money as a friend, not an enemy. People with wealth consciousness view money as a positive force, a tool for good, and a means of expressing value, not something dirty, stressful, or complicated. Number 2, believing in unlimited supply. Rather than seeing wealth as a limited resource to fight over, they understand that abundance is infinite and constantly expanding. Number 3, focusing on circulation, not accumulation. They understand that money, like energy, needs to flow. They're comfortable with both receiving and giving. Number 4, valuing themselves and their contributions. They know their worth and don't apologize for receiving abundant compensation for the value they provide. Number 5, taking inspired action. They don't just think about wealth, they move toward it with confident, inspired action that feels good. Number 6, practicing gratitude for what they have. They consistently acknowledge and appreciate the abundance already present in their lives. Number 7, trusting in perfect timing. They understand that wealth has its own divine timing and don't force outcomes through desperate action. The good news is that each of these aspects of wealth consciousness can be developed with consistent practice. Your brain is remarkably adaptable, capable of creating new neural pathways at any age. Now let's explore the practical tools that can help you embody this new relationship with wealth. Number 1, the I remember when technique. This powerful practice helps you create a psychological bridge from your current state to your desired financial reality. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in the future, looking back on your current financial situation as a distant memory. Say to yourself, I remember when I used to worry about money. I remember when I would check my bank account with anxiety. I remember when financial freedom seemed impossible. Now I live with complete financial abundance. Now money flows to me easily and frequently. Now I make financial decisions from a place of security and peace. As you do this, engage all your senses. Feel the emotions of relief, confidence, and gratitude. Visualize the details of your abundant lifestyle, where you live, what you wear, how you spend your time. Hear the conversations you'd have as a financially successful person. What makes this technique so effective is that it places scarcity in the past tense and abundance in the present tense, training your subconscious to accept this new reality as current truth. Practice this daily, especially before sleep, when your subconscious mind is most receptive and the critical faculty that might reject these new ideas is less active. Number 2. Belief excavation and replacement. Our financial beliefs are often hidden from our conscious awareness, operating like invisible software running in the background of our minds. To transform your financial reality, you need to bring these beliefs into the light and systematically replace them with empowering alternatives. Start by examining your current financial patterns. Are you constantly overspending? Do you avoid looking at your bank account? Do opportunities for advancement seem to pass you by? These patterns point to underlying beliefs. Ask yourself, what must I believe about money for my current situation to be true? Some common limiting beliefs include, I don't deserve to be wealthy. Money is the source of conflict and stress. Wealthy people are unethical. I'm not smart enough to manage large sums of money. If I become rich, people will only want me for my money. I have to work extremely hard for every dollar. Once you've identified these beliefs, trace them back to their origin. When did you first adopt them? Was it something your parents said, an experience in childhood, a message from society or religion? Understanding the source helps loosen the belief's grip on your psyche. You can recognize that it was formed when you had limited perspective and information. It's not an absolute truth. Then transform each limiting belief into an empowering one. I am worthy of abundance in alms. Money brings peace and possibility into my life. Wealth allows me to express my highest values. I am financially intelligent and manage money wisely. My wealth attracts genuine relationships and creates positive impact. Money flows to me easily when I'm aligned with my gift. Write down these new beliefs and read them daily. Find evidence that supports them. Gradually, your mind will accept them as your new financial operating system. Number 3. Embodied wealth practices. Wealth consciousness isn't just mental, it's physical. Your body holds your financial beliefs in its posture, movements, and energy. Try these embodied practices to accelerate your transformation. 1. Wealth walking. Walk as your wealthy self would walk, with confidence, ease, and purpose. Feel abundance in every step. Your physiology directly influences your psychology. So changing how you move can change how you think and feel about money. 2. Abundant breathing. Practice deep, expansive breathing while imagining wealth flowing into your life with each inhale and resistance, releasing with each exhale. Your breath is intimately connected to your nervous system, which governs your stress responses around money. 3. Prosperity posture. Sit or stand as if you're already financially free. Shoulders relaxed, spine tall, chest open. This posture signals to your brain that you're safe, confident, and open to receiving. 4. Wealth visualization with touch. As you visualize financial abundance, touch something that represents wealth to you, perhaps a special coin, a luxury item, or even just your wallet. This creates a somatic anchor for the feeling of abundance. Integrate these practices into your daily routine until they become second nature. Remember, you're not just changing your thoughts, you're rewiring your entire being to align with wealth. The next practical tool on our list is called Divine Partnership Protocol. Many people approach manifestation with a white-knuckle grip, trying to force outcomes through sheer will. This creates resistance that blocks the very abundance they seek. The Divine Partnership Protocol offers a more balanced approach, combining intentional creation with spiritual surrender. Start by clarifying exactly what financial abundance means to you. Be specific about amounts, time frames, and how wealth will feel and function in your life. This clarity sends a precise signal to the universe about what you're creating. Then, release your attachment to how this abundance will come to you. Trust that the universe has a broader perspective and can see opportunities invisible from your viewpoint. This doesn't mean becoming passive. It means balancing trust with inspired action, following your intuition, and taking steps that feel natural and aligned, without forcing or striving. Remember that your path to abundance may take unexpected turns. What looks like a detour or even a setback might be setting you up for an even greater opportunity. Practice this balance daily by asking, what's my next aligned step toward abundance? Then take that step with full presence, while releasing attachment to immediate outcomes. This divine dance between intention and surrender creates a frictionless path to wealth that feels more like flowing than fighting. The next tool you can use is called Reticular Activating System Reprogramming. Your brain has a filtering system called the reticular activating system that determines what information from your environment reaches your conscious awareness. Right now, your ass might be programmed to filter out wealth opportunities while highlighting evidence of financial struggle. This means you could be walking past potential gold mines every day without noticing them. By consciously reprogramming your ass, you can train your brain to spotlight abundance wherever it exists. Start by consciously deciding to notice evidence of wealth and opportunity in your daily life. This simple intention activates your ass to prioritize abundance-related information. Then practice the 24-hour abundance challenge. For the next day, commit to seeing everything through the lens of abundance. Every person is a potential connection to wealth. Every challenge an opportunity for growth. Every resource you already have an asset. Write down every instance of abundance you notice. The free coffee a friend bought you, the unexpected discount, the compliment that boosted your confidence, the idea that sparked during your commute. No example is too small. This exercise serves two important purposes. First, it forces your ass to actively search for wealth-related opportunities. Second, it trains you to perceive the abundance that already surrounds you but has been filtered from your awareness. After completing this challenge, review your list. You'll likely be amazed at how many moments of abundance you've been overlooking. This realization alone can shift your perception from scarcity to abundance. Make this practice of abundance spotting a daily habit. Over time, your brain will automatically begin to highlight opportunities, connections, and resources that align with your wealth goal. The ultimate level of financial transformation happens when abundance becomes not just something you do or have, but who you are. This identity level change occurs when you fully integrate your wealthy self into your current identity, eliminating the gap between who you are now and who you'll be when financially abundant. Start by creating a detailed profile of your wealthy identity. How does this version of you think? What values guide their decisions? How do they speak about money? What habits do they maintain? How do they contribute to others? Then gradually adopt these traits, one by one, into your current life. If your wealthy self would read financial books, start reading one now. If they would network with successful people, begin building those connections today. If they would invest regularly, start with whatever amount is currently available to you. The key insight here is that you don't have to wait until you have money to become your wealthy self. In fact, becoming that person first is what attracts the wealth. An effective practice for accelerating this integration is wealth identity immersion. For 20 minutes each day, completely step into your wealthy identity. During this time, think, speak, move, and make decisions exactly as your wealthy self would. This isn't role-playing. It's identity rehearsal. You're literally training your nervous system to recognize this state as normal, creating neural pathways that will eventually become your default way of being. As you implement these practices, be aware of the common obstacles that may arise. Number 1, the worthiness trap. Many people consciously desire wealth, but subconsciously don't feel worthy of it. This creates an internal conflict that blocks manifestation. Signs you might be caught in the worthiness trap include feeling guilty when good things happen, sabotaging success when it comes, or believing you must suffer or struggle to earn money. To transcend this block, recognize that worthiness is your birthright, not something to be earned. Abundance is not a reward for good behavior. It's your natural state when you remove the barriers to it. Make a daily practice of affirming your inherent worthiness. I am worthy of abundance simply because I exist. I don't need to prove, earn, or justify my prosperity. Number 2, the visibility fear. Some people unconsciously fear that becoming wealthy will make them too visible, exposing them to criticism, judgment, or expectations from others. This fear often stems from childhood experiences where standing out led to negative consequences. It creates a subconscious resistance to wealth as a protection mechanism. To overcome this block, gradually expand your comfort zone with visibility. Share your goals with supportive people. Speak about money with increasing confidence. Imagine receiving positive attention for your success and responding to it with grace. Remind yourself, I am safe being seen in my full abundance. My success inspires others and contributes to greater good. Number 3, the identity conflict. Perhaps the most subtle block to wealth is the fear that becoming rich will change who you are, that you'll lose connection with loved ones or betray your values. This concern creates a subconscious resistance to wealth as a way of preserving your current identity and relationships. To resolve this conflict, consciously design your wealthy identity to include your core values and meaningful connections. Visualize using your wealth in ways that strengthen rather than threaten what matters most to you. Affirm, my wealth enhances who I truly am. As I prosper, I express my values more fully and create deeper connections with those I love. I believe in your capacity for abundance so deeply that I want to challenge you. Commit to these practices for the next 30 days. Not sporadically, not half-heartedly, but with the same dedication you'd give to a fitness program or learning a new skill. Immerse yourself fully in the emotions of wealth. Decode the universe's secret language of opportunity that surrounds you daily. Become the living embodiment of abundance in how you think, feel, and move through the world. During these 30 days, you'll likely experience resistance. Old beliefs will fight to maintain their position. You might feel silly acting wealthy when your circumstances haven't yet changed. You might question whether these practices really work. This resistance is normal. It's simply your old identity trying to preserve itself. When it arises, recognize it as a sign that you're making progress. Thank it for trying to protect you, then gently continue with your practices. Your wealth isn't something distant or unattainable. It's waiting for you, hidden in plain sight. All you need to do is align yourself with it. The practice is simple, but it requires consistency. Each day, choose to see yourself differently. Choose to feel differently about money. Choose actions aligned with abundance rather than scarcity. These daily choices may seem small, but they create momentum that eventually breaks through the barriers of your old financial identity. As you transform your financial reality, something remarkable happens. Your abundance creates ripples that extend far beyond your personal experience. When you free yourself from financial stress and limitation, you become more generous, not just with money, but with time, attention, and compassion. You create jobs, support causes, solve problems, and inspire others through your example. True wealth isn't just about accumulating resources. It's about expanding your capacity to contribute. As you prosper, you become a conduit for prosperity, channeling abundance to everyone you touch. This is the ultimate purpose of your financial transformation, not just to improve your life, but to become a force for good in the world. The financial transformation I'm describing isn't just about accumulating money, it's about freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom to pursue your passions, freedom to make a difference in the world. When you align yourself with abundance, you don't just change your bank account, you change your entire life. Your relationship with money reflects your relationship with life itself. As you heal one, you heal the other. As you expand your capacity to receive financially, you expand your capacity to receive all good things: love, joy, health, and purpose. The choice is yours. Will you continue living in scarcity, accepting limitation as your reality? Or will you step into the abundant future that's already yours at the level of potential? I believe in you. Now it's time for you to believe in yourself. Your journey to financial freedom starts with a single thought. I am worthy of abundance, and it flows to me naturally. Think that thought, feel it, become it, and watch as your world transforms. Remember, your wealth is not out there somewhere waiting to be found. It's within you, waiting to be expressed. The time to begin is now.